All right, guys. So in this video, I figured I would talk about where we are currently at here on September 1st in relation to the Democrats' strategy behind what a lot of people have referenced and thought of. We know that Kamala is now the candidate and has been the candidate, but they didn't propel her to being the actual president. And of course, we know the idea that Biden is the president right now is ridiculous. They've allowed Biden multiple vacations. He's plane hopping from vacation spot to vacation spot. It's just also ridiculous. I would imagine now, after a 7-day vacation, remember he was in California, then he went to Delaware. I guess now he's going to start doing a few public appearances, but you do have to wonder what is next for the Democrats. I'll give a quick analysis on what I think is going to happen during the debate, but I want to save that. We have the debate coming up on the 10th. I think she's going to be there. There's been speculation. There's been the weird stuff with her saying, oh, we need the mics not muted. She's still trying to push for that, even though ABC came out and said, no, this was agreed upon. This is what's happening. So I think she's going to be there for that. It probably depends on whether or not, in terms of the speculation of her actually taking over and getting what people are deeming kind of a second honeymoon period, because she got that first extended honeymoon period when she became the candidate and they were able to kind of reset everything and change the entire narrative and the vibe. And that's where that whole thing came in, because she's younger. And so they're like, well, she's younger. She gets young people. She's brat, this, that, and the other. Try and just get all that fake energy into the campaign. Now that that's died out, she still is polling better than Biden was. But if you look at the numbers, the data compared to 2020 and 2016, she very likely will lose. So what do they do? Well, we'll have to see how the debate goes. But let's say the debate doesn't go well. Personally, I think, and this is normally what happens with presidential debates, unless there's an absolute trouncing or there's a moment that's just undeniable, like what happened with Biden. It is funny, though. There was kind of two thoughts within the Democrats when you look at that debate, the Trump versus Biden one. I'm sure people remember this, and I talked about it several times. There were Democrats that would say that they would admit, well, Biden struggled early, but he was better on the substance. And of course, that's completely false. But they were trying to cope and say, well, we're admitting that Biden, he wasn't very good early on in the debate because he literally couldn't talk. If you remember that one moment where he spent like 7 seconds not being able to speak. I mean, that's when there's a moment like that, that's like the only time where you'll get both the left and the right coming together and saying, all right, Trump was better than Biden or whoever. In that scenario, it was obviously Trump and Biden. But with how bad Biden was, the left had to admit it. And it was also the fact that they wanted to get Biden out. They had an off ramp with Kamala Harris. Although, if you're Obama or some of the other Democrats, they didn't even want Kamala Harris. They wanted an open convention. They didn't get that because Biden endorsed Harris right when he stepped down with that weird letter. But the question is, if she has another really bad debate, again, what I think is going to happen is, even if we think Trump wins, the Democrats, the left, they're going to say Kamala crushed Trump. The right is going to say Trump crushed Kamala. That's just kind of how these debates go. If you go back to 2016, I don't think the debates really had any bearing over the election. I mean, there were some interesting moments with Trump and Hillary, and they had 3 debates. And then in 2020, you had 2 debates between Biden and Trump. People say Biden won the first one, Trump was better in the second one. It didn't really affect a ton. The third one gets canceled because Trump gets the coronavirus. And then in 2024, we had the first debate, which, you can say probably was a blunder. Trump agreeing to do that debate in June, which was just absurd. It's very obvious that the Democrats were worried about Biden and they wanted maybe a little bit of a test run so they could have the time to off ramp Biden and get Kamala in before the convention, which is exactly what ended up happening. The question is, if Kamala has a really bad debate for whatever reason, I don't think they'll admit it because they don't have another off ramp. They were able to admit it with Biden because they wanted to pressure Biden to step down, and they said his debate was terrible in an effort to get him to step down. They're not going to do that same thing. But the question is, if she does have a bad debate, according to independents, will we get maybe some pressure on Biden to step down from being the president with some type of health issue or whatever? I mean, they've already pressured him, and threatened him and said, we're going to 25th Amendment you if you do not agree to this. Because to me, it seemed like Biden probably still wants to run. Yeah, I would imagine he probably does. And obviously, I think that's ridiculous. Democrats know it's ridiculous, but Biden did win in 2020. He did win the primary fair and square. And if he wants to run, he should be able to. But again, they threatened him because they knew he was going to be a worse candidate because of how old he was and there was going to be no energy in his campaign. The question is, how much of an effect does another honeymoon period have? Like, to me, I don't understand, and this is just maybe me being naive to it all, but it's like, so Kamala Harris becomes the president. Like, it's just so ridiculous right now. It's like Biden's not even the president, it's just the title. So I don't know, like a second honeymoon period of what? Like, I mean, I guess it would get, it would take over the news feed, like, oh my God, Biden's, but it's like, it seems like we just did that, you know? And I know technically Biden is still the president, but based on what they've done with Biden, I mean, it'd be one thing if Biden was doing all these public appearances, he was doing presidential stuff. They've just sent him on vacation after vacation after vacation. So it's like, what really is the point if Harris takes over? Is it really any different? Is it really going to create another honeymoon period for her? I mean, again, it will dominate the news cycle, and maybe they'll want that if Harris has a bad debate or something happens or the polling doesn't look good. I mean, right now, don't get me wrong, there are liberals that are saying the polls are good, they're fine. Of course, their inner thoughts are probably a lot different when you compare what happened in 2020, 2016 to where we are now in 2024, where Trump is polling basically even based off the fact that he normally overperforms the polls during general elections. We would expect Trump to be up, possibly win the popular vote by about half a point. Even if he loses the popular vote by 2, he probably very likely wins the election relatively easily and could get easily over 300 electoral votes. He lost the popular vote by 3 points and got over 300 electoral votes against Hillary Clinton or I don't think it was 3 points. He might have lost the popular vote by 2 points, but he got over 300 electoral votes against Hillary and then narrowly beat Biden while losing the popular vote by 4.5 points in 2020. So you have to wonder what kind of effect will, and what is the really scenario behind, now that we're into September, if there is a bad debate for Kamala, is there an alarm bell that's rung that says, okay, now it's time to install Kamala as the actual president, try and get a second honeymoon period? Because, I mean, they can really do whatever they want to Biden. I mean, Biden is a total corpse. He's on vacation every day. Nobody, not even Democrats, believe he's doing anything to lead this country. And it did seem like there was this fake facade that they had to put up for Biden because I mean, he was running against Trump. So it's like, you're trying to get this incumbent advantage. Let's have him actually try and be the president and make decisions. They were doing it. And then he has the horrible debate, and then he's forced to try and to defend himself. He was doing 2 interviews a week, if you guys remember that. And then the pressure gets too much on him. They turn on him right after the debate, and then they force him out. And then I think they just told him, all right, dude, we were pretending because you were technically the candidate. We have to beat Trump. So at this point, you're not the candidate. Just get out of the way. We really don't care what you do. We know you're not leading anything. And so that's why it would make it so easy for them to trample over Biden again and force him to step down. And you could blame it on health. You could say, I mean, it is funny how there still was never a coherent answer as to why Biden, who won the primary, the Democratic primary, 14 million votes. The next closest got like, I don't even know if they got to 1 million. He got like 97% of the votes in the primary, and they rigged the primary process. They made it absurd to where RFK Jr. had to become an independent because he couldn't get on ballots. But it's funny because you've got the Democrats having to kind of fake the whole Biden is still the president thing, and then they just let him loose and say, whatever, Joe, do whatever you want. We know you're not doing anything. You were never doing anything, but now we don't even have to pretend it because you're not the actual candidate. It is Kamala Harris. And so would the next move for them, because they don't have an October surprise. See, it's very important that people understand this. Let's go back to 2020. The Democrats, and this got overshadowed because of the whole Hunter Biden story, and that was an amazing October surprise by the Republicans that got thwarted by illegal election manipulation. And it's come out now where Zuckerberg has admitted, to get ahead probably of a whistleblower, he had to admit that, yeah, the Democrats, I mean, the FBI, they told us that there was going to be specific Russian disinformation based around Biden family corruption. That's what Zuckerberg said in a letter to Jim Jordan. So that we didn't realize it was that blatant to where they were like, we're going to get out ahead of this, guys. There's going to be some bad stuff about Biden's family, but don't worry. It's Russian. Just trust us. It's Russian disinformation. Please silence it and then try and actually blame it on Trump and say they're the ones that put it out and it's all Russia, and Russia wants Trump to be elected because, remember, they're still using that narrative in 2020 after the 2.5-year investigation where nobody gets accountability for that. And it mires Trump's entire administration for basically 2.5 out of the 4 years, almost 3 years. If you guys remember, CNN was running it every day. The Mueller report. Oh my God. The probe. It was the worst thing ever. That was the entire thing with the Trump. During when Trump was president, they were trying to thwart it and focus on scandals that weren't really real. And obviously, the Russian hoax, it was not really real. Remember, Joe Scarborough said in 2020 that right before the election with the Hunter Biden thing, of course, he was buying the fake news that it was fake and it was from Russia, the Hunter Biden laptop. He said on MSNBC, he said, "Oh, I still believe that Russia was involved and they got Trump elected." So these people, it's like they bash their heads into a window. Like they can't learn, no matter how much information is there, no matter how many times you tell them the Hunter Biden story is real, it's all real. They still cannot. They're too cluttered by their own delusion to realize it. So I don't think that they're going to switch Biden out for Kamala. It would have to be a desperation move after a bad debate where, oh yeah, what I was saying. The Democrats had no October surprise on Trump in 2020. Zip, zero. Remember, the guy they call Adolf Hitler, they had nothing on him. How is that possible? I mean, my God, he's Hitler. You would have 100 things on him. They got nothing. The only October surprise was the Hunter Biden thing that they had to shut down. So they're not going to have anything on Trump in 2024. If they had ammo on him, they would have used it in 2020. They might make something up in 2024, but it's nothing real. Trump, and it's not just Trump, there's also a book coming out about Kamala Harris and how nasty she is. And that's why now there's rumors and there's murmurs, and a lot of mainstream people, a lot of just common people, they don't know this. Kamala Harris treats people in her campaign, her advisors, horribly. She's just a real nasty person to be around, and that does not play well with independent voters. And so there's going to be a book about it. And there's going to be other things that I'm sure the Trump campaign is going to release, because Kamala Harris has never been a major candidate. Sure, she's been VP and they've hit her on stuff, but it's completely different when you're running for president and you're the actual candidate. You're not the VP. So they've got ammo. And so how do the Democrats try and combat it when they've got nothing on Trump? Again, if they would have had something on Trump, they would have done it in 2020 when Trump was the incumbent. They had nothing in 2020. The only thing they had was lying and saying the Hunter Biden story was Russian disinformation. So see, they have nothing. That's why they might try and do a honeymoon 2.0 with Kamala Harris and put her in as president and they're just walking all over Joe, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. Nobody even believes it anyways. And you've also got ABC, who has just been so horrible. You took it to any of the polling experts will tell you, ABC +6 for Kamala Harris. And earlier this year, ABC had to fire their pollster because he put out a poll that had Trump ahead. He was like, "Listen, I got to admit Trump's up." And they're like, "You're fired." I mean, that's how biased these polls are. I mean, it's like one of the mainstream pollsters is like, "I'm sorry, guys." He's like shaking. He comes in. "I'm sorry, guys, but we got this poll. It says Trump +5. You're fired." No, you're fired. No. You got to go, man. Oh, man. But, and you've also, dude, this was so funny. So you have, like, dude, the way that these anchors, carry weight for the Democratic Party. And this woman just blatantly lies because she feels the need to defend. I have to defend the Democrats. Like, it's so infuriating to see this stuff.
Sacrifice and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women. But she hasn't. She never has spoken to them or taken a meeting with them.
Well, they did meet with them during the dignified transfer.
Because of
they were with them at the dignified transfer.
Her and Joe Biden.
They were with them at the dignified transfer. I have to defend my mommy and daddy, the Democrats. Kamala was not, in fact, at the dignified transfer, but the Democrats, it's so important, the Democrats. Oh. It's like, this is how bad they are. And then you've got them blatantly lying. And see, this is another thing that they do. "Oh my God, Trump was born into wealth. He's so wealthy." Yeah, that's a hell of a lot better than, have you seen the photo of Tim Walz smiling with Alex Soros? Where Alex Soros goes around the DNC, basically takes trophy photos of the people that he just bought off. Alex Soros literally goes around the DNC, buys people, and then takes photos with them. And you've got Tim Walz like he's a toddler about to get fed an ice cream cone, like smiling with Soros, who's like worth $25 billion. He just bought him. And that's better than Trump having his own money. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Links to that's always in the description.